he kind of messed up a couple of team fights.
It was also
afterwards, you know,
against a much weaker top laner.
Yeah,
Summit is. I know I've had this conversation with many analysts and even pro players. Summit, well. I believe, is the best mechanical top laner the LCK has to offer. I think overall best top laner, everything considered, it's probably still Keen.
Yeah.
And then there's Nuggery, which is like a mix of both, depending on how you want to look at it. So they're all obviously in the same ballpark. They're at the top of that mountain, but Summit is really the one that will break your ankles and try to really ram a lead down your throat. So
yeah, absolutely.
He's very scary to go up against in the top lane. And he's definitely the Lance of the Elite Four here. So T1, they're banning LeBlanc Rumble and Lee Sin, which is very interesting. SANDBOX, Akali, Lucian, and Elise are going to be their 3 bans. And T1 now just going to lock in the Rek'Sai and also Roach. We'll see what he can end up picking. Now, Roach is the kind of top laner I would actually expect to be brought in to neutralize. He's the stable, sturdy kind of top laner. He's never been a mechanical Leviathan by any means or any stretch. Maybe he has something obnoxious in store to just latch on to Summit and not let him do anything. And that would allow Cuz to play to the other 2 lanes in theory. But again, this also matters on what is going to be the draft. So T1 opening Rek'Sai, SANDBOX getting Misfortune.
Always questionable when you leave Misfortune available, but we saw double Rek'Sai bans by SANDBOX. And so it seems like these teams have read something big into the Rek'Sai. They're saying, no, Rek'Sai is actually the new guy off the block that basically is like either last ban or first pick. And that's what we've seen here in at least 3 games in a row. So it'll be interesting to see if it actually does work out here for T1, as they'll just go straight into Zyra Khan into that bottom lane. I believe this is the same bot lanes from game number 1. And checking my notes, that is correct.
So Aatrox is going to be the pick again for Summit. And we'll see if they just mirror the Aurelia Camille ban. And maybe they won't. Maybe, because it's Roach, they do Aurelia Mordekaiser. And that would actually be an interesting little spin. That could be an acknowledgement that that's more his kind of champion in terms of how it plays and everything like that. T1 now banning the Gragas. And SANDBOX, we'll see. Is it going to just be the Camille, or will it end up being the Mordekaiser?
Well, the only other champion that wasn't Aatrox that kind of played was Camille. And in a turn of events, they are not going to go for another top laner. They actually take away the Orianna from Faker.
So this is a little bit surprising. It might signal that a Cassiopeia or a Ryze might be on the horizon for SANDBOX, depending on where it comes in. T1 might just continue to pinch jungle. And they will. They end up banning away the Olaf. So this is a lot of jungle bans right now. This is set up for a Karthus. I wouldn't expect it. But there's so much physical damage right now on SANDBOX. And the junglers got pinched so much. There's a few junglers remaining. You have Karthus. You have Kindred to an extent.
How about Talia?
How about not that? What am I seeing, Valdez?
That is a Sejuani. Pick we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, to be honest.
So here's the Mordekaiser, and I assume that's for Roach up there in the top lane. I don't know why. So if the Orianna ban isn't to get Ryze or Cassiopeia for some reason, I'm just going to be a little bit bewildered on what is going on there. Now, T1 might just lock in Renekton. This is such a all-in type of team composition. This This peaks in high school. This is one of those.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where it gets 1.5.
That's the Chad from the football team.
Yeah,
man.
this is actually Tanner 1. That is the team that we're playing.
Tanner 1. How about Syndra? What do you think about Syndra here?
I think Syndra is going to have a pretty good time in this game. SANDBOX, if that ends up getting locked in, it's gonna be Azir, but SANDBOX's team comp is so grossly imbalanced compared to Team Tanner 1 here. T1 has 1.5 items, and then everything drops off a cliff. Absolutely everything just goes downhill from there.
Yeah.
The Azir, the Misfortune, due to the nature of T1's comp, having 4 melee champions that have to hard engage into SANDBOX, Aatrox will get to go up to 4 or 5 items, which isn't typically a thing. Nautilus is going to be effective, even beyond just his first item. Sejuani is going to be really effective. This is a nightmare. I think this is the worst draft deficit T1 have found themselves in so far throughout the KeSPA Cup.
Wow, that's not a good thing to hear if you're a T1 fan coming into Game 3 when they're down 0-2 in a best of 5. I was touting their experience in best of 5s and their ability to win them, but I'm not so sure after hearing your assessment of the draft. Faker, he's been frustrated so far in a couple of games. We'll see what he can do on his Mordekaiser again, this time in Game 3. But Dove going back to old tried and true Azir here into the mid lane. Another pick that we haven't seen in quite a while. Feels like we're going back to spring with this one. All we need is a Corki on the other side, and then that would just make everything make sense here. As it looks like we're just about ready, guys, to hop onto the Rift for game number 3. We'll see if SANDBOX can close it out with the sweep, or can T1 actually come back in the series? Here we are back on the Rift as SANDBOX up 2-0. Feeling pretty good. Dove, definitely a big fan of the Azir, brings it back in here. And this was a last-second change. Is Azir just better against this composition?
His ID comes from Azir.
Yeah.
Also, so, you know,
Yeah.
I guess
A big
they want
favor for
to
Dove.
bring him in. But no, Azir does wonders against this entire team comp. So his wall makes it so obnoxious. It divides the T1 team composition. He's so difficult to get onto. And now it means that T1 also has such a heavy reliance on summoner spells compared to SANDBOX, who have long range. They have the Make It Rain from MF. They have the Azir long range on his soldiers. And if you look at T1's team composition, they don't deal very well with getting poked. They are... It's the opposite of what is good.
Against poke, for
Yeah.
sure. And against disengage. And against champions that want you to engage into them.
Right, so SANDBOX actually has every single mode inside of their comp. They have what I would like to call a designer comp, in the sense that it
sounds fancy.
It can do everything against what the opponents would ever want to achieve. It has every mode available. If it's winning, it can siege. If it's going even, it can poke. If it's losing, it can turtle and outscale you. It does absolutely everything. Right, so it really is just a designer team composition, and it's facing a pure red, full-on aggression fire comp. And T1 has
good old Charmander.
15 minutes or something to try to win. And this is one of those games where a 5,000 gold lead isn't enough. We need something absolutely catastrophic to go wrong.
Yeah. So when you say designer team comp, you're specifically calling it designer to mean better than jack of all trades. You don't mean like they're all just okay at everything. They're just actually really good at all styles of play, which really gives you so many options. But not necessarily worse at any one of those options than any other comp.
Right, and it's designed to work with each other so well against what the opponents are attempting to do. So It's very good right here. Now Rek'Sai going for a pretty peculiar gank right there. Three camps into a gank attempt, and I think Cuz even actually ate up some of the CS from Faker in mid, and maybe that could end up playing a part.
Yeah, in terms of the XP as he was walking through, he's going to be spotted all the way through as well. I hope that Cuz keeps his cool, because we don't want him to go mental boom after game number 2, because we all know, one of the most important things in best of fives is just being able to, forget about the game that happened before. Nice little engage down on the bottom side. Teddy's going in. A couple more feathers, and the ignite might do it, but I think he's going to survive on the back there. The last tick, just not enough to get in there. Had somebody flash and follow up maybe, but at the end of the day, it's still a great trade. All 4 summoners are down here for SANDBOX's bottom lane.
Yeah, and this is really good. This is the exact kind of thing that T1 needs to be getting going this game. Now, Effort's going to start the recall. Teddy's going to finish it up and then join Rakan. They're able to use the Lovers Duo recall right there. It's pretty balanced.
Yeah,
quite nice.
I like it.
And so now, Roach, meanwhile, I mean, he's doing... oh! No, the auto attack. So he actually, he pulled minion aggro from the 2 spellcasters 1 second too soon. Otherwise, the cannon would have died. So a little unfortunate right there.
Yeah,
I think that's what he was trying to do, was time it with the minion projectiles. And so far... yeah.
Level 3. Just using that nice little recall and when they got on the bottom side to help out and clear some wards. Doesn't look like he found that control ward in the river, though, so he's going to have to get in there. What do you think about Roach going ahead and seeing the Aatrox and identifying, hey, that's going to be Summit playing it. Let me pick Renekton to actually go ahead and try to counter the Aatrox and actually skirmish with him and take trades in the top side rather than, just throwing him on a Mordekaiser or like an Ornn or something that can just sit there and try not to die.
Yeah, I think it's obviously he feels confident going up against Summit, and so far he's doing pretty good up there in top lane. Now, Summit this time around, he does have a jungler that is mostly only going to be counter/match ganking, at least until Sejuani gets that level 6. And so Summit is going to be alone on an island for a little bit. He picked up the Ninja Tabby, but Executioner's calling on the side of Roach. But Teddy and Effort, they're doing what they need to do. Part of the issue, though, is that even though it's 2 plates, plates have been nerfed. And 2 plates isn't enough. Remember, I mentioned they need several thousand gold lead and good Drake RNG to be considered favored in the mid game. And that's just a dynamic of how these 5 champions interact with the opponent's 5 champions, what item completions are achieved, the innate base scaling of these champions. And so now Roach coming in, plants a control ward down. I do believe that's going to end up seeing on Fleek when he paths down.
Yeah, interesting timing to actually get in there. And they are just getting so much vision in the enemy jungle. There are 3 or even 4 control wards on the side of the blue team here, just spotting out. It looks like 3 in the enemy jungle. One of them with another enemy control ward there, but nice little maneuver by Cuz to come down to the bottom side. Looked like they might have seen him come on in. Backing off is Root and Gorilla down here in the bottom lane, as another plate is going to go the way of Teddy and Effort in the bottom lane.
Teddy and Effort are just really on point this game with the Zyre Rakan against Root and Gorilla. They're riding them 20 CS right now in addition to all of the turret plates. They have priority. They're going to convert this into a blue buff capture. And so right now, SANDBOX, the bot lane, it is bleeding. 18 CS is the deficit right now. But everything else is going stable. Now, for T1, they got Cloud Dragon again, and interestingly enough, they got it when they had the Mordekaiser. So the Death Realm, available more often if they would ever want to use it for something. And Ocean being rolled second will mean that we'll either get an Infernal or a Mountain Soul. Now, if we ask the question, which is more valuable, both can obviously use Infernal Soul, but T1 utilizes Mountain Soul way less effectively than SANDBOX. And the reason for that is because if SANDBOX has Mountain Soul and you're T1 trying to dive into them and they have extra health, extra resistances with your all-in type of team comp, you're going to have a bad time. But if you're T1 and you have it, doesn't mean anything if Azir's just poking you down in the first place or MF. So you can't quite utilize it as well. So Infernal is the really spicy one if we get it this game.
Absolutely. Both of them, as you mentioned, going to love that one. And T1, you know, if it does end up being Mountain Soul, they can just take it to try to deny it. I think that's going to be their main prerogative. You know, you don't want to just hand that over to SANDBOX and their team being the one essentially in the driver's seat trying to just push this game into a certain aggressive direction. They would love to take control of those objectives as soon and as many as possible. Top lane, you know, we were talking about how Rhodes was doing well. He does have this wave pushing in, so the CS is still going to be slightly in favor of him. You'd have to imagine at the end of that wave, but still not really able to pick up any big kills. Rek'Sai hasn't visited there at all. He's just been mainly hanging around mid and one time towards the bottom side in the enemy jungle. So mainly just leaving top lane on an island as also on fleek, now level 6. Still looking for a lane to get any action going. We'll see if he actually does want to get that action going or if he'll just allow his team to try to scale up.
Well, T1, they're looking like they want to try to do something down here. They have the Rift Heralds, can definitely get Teddy, those plates, and the first blood turret. As it's not going to get a second crash, I don't believe. It's going to end up being stopped there by Nautilus and MF. And 12 seconds until the next Ocean Dragon. So after this, I mean, I still just assume that we're going to have a lull state. And interesting thing to talk about here is a lot of people will look at this and they'll see it as T1 are winning and it's doing really good. Like we said earlier, it's not big enough, which is a really sad thing when you think about it. So you mean to tell me that getting 5 turret plates and a first blood turret isn't a sizable enough advantage? And the reality of the situation is that no, it's not, because watch how the next 4 or 5 minutes pan out. SANDBOX can just sit back and continue to farm, and they're accelerating towards a greater end goal than T1 is. So for every dollar that SANDBOX makes, T1 needs $1.25 in order to just keep up. And that's a byproduct of the draft, and it puts a lot of responsibility on T1. So after this Ocean Dragon goes down, there's really only going to be a few options remaining to really force SANDBOX off their turrets. T1 can't dive turrets. You can't just decide to dive tier 1 turrets with 1 core completed item at 12, 13, 14 minutes. And so now the game is going to stall, and if it does stall, that means that we're going to lock at a 2,000 gold deficit, roughly, and that's not big enough.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, there are certain objectives on the map that you can use to your advantage to try to push the envelope and try to gain early leads, but we talked about the plates being stronger but giving less gold, and also Shelly and Shirley, they don't seem as effective, even though there's 2 of them, and if you are ahead and you get both of them, it feels good, but I'm not sure that it's really enough, especially in the mid lane. You know, we got this bottom lane turret, that's all good, but Azir and MF are just going to clear out the mid lane that still has 5 plates on it, just chilling. You know, it's not in any danger of going down. Looks like T1's next objective is going to be the top side. That's going to be much easier to break as they all rotate up to the top here. Summit has to be very, very respectful of this rotation in order not to die. Let's see how SANDBOX respond to this and if they want to take a fight to T1.
And so now this is the part of the game where SANDBOX, they have less terrain to cover because they're in a...
Oh, boy.
Oh, man.
That is a squishy Rek'Sai. No bullet time ever came out, though. Root kind of just...
A little surprising.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
think they could have burst him down.
Yeah, they could have killed him for sure. But they chose not to use anything. And right now, SANDBOX, they have less terrain to cover. And so when they know through deductive reasoning, okay, your champions can and can't do this. You can and can't be here. It's very easy to sit back indefinitely and laugh as T1 struggle to do anything. And a lot of people interpret the map coverage or the vision inside of jungle or vision inside of river as being something meaningful. There's no objective on the map, Valdez. There's nothing to fight over, and there's no way with the lead that T1 has right now that they can force anything meaningful. And so SANDBOX are getting to sit back comfortably and continue to just glide into a lead. I mean, I would say that they're winning right now.
That's, yeah, it's definitely something interesting to hear because, you know, all the numbers do go against that, but it does make sense what you are saying as effort going to pull that wave back. I'll be interested to see what Xayah can do. You know, we've been talking about this composition on the side of T1 and how, you know, you get 1.5 items and then you basically fall off the cliff. But we have seen some mega Xayah performances, especially if they get ahead enough being the key word, as already getting a nice little lead in the bottom side. Maybe T1 deciding, you know, we want to put all this gold onto Teddy and make him the carry this time around. They're absolutely trying to get Shirley here, and they really want to make this push, most likely into the mid lane, you'd have to imagine, if possible. But let's see if they can pick it up to begin with, as we're TPing in. SANDBOX not going to let this one go down, as a big stopwatch. Going to save that in an avoidance. So the bullet time effort is making them look silly right now, but where's the damage from T1? It is non-existent. It's only Faker in the backside onto Gorilla, basically. On Fleek, though, has to back away. Summit getting lower and lower, but Faker now out of the fight. Summit, the first one to go down, but now it's Root in the driver's seat. He's going to pick up that kill as Cuz went a little bit too far into that pit, and now Dove trying to catch up to them and will pick it up. The double kill now going to the 80 carry MF on the side of SANDBOX.
And I mean, this is exactly what I've been talking about for the last 15 minutes of the game, Valdez, where even when SANDBOX whiffs the MF ultimate, whiffs the Azir ultimate, and they're behind in gold, they had things go poorly for them early on.
The triple kill, what is going on? As this is going to go into a quadra kill. 5 kills go the way of Teddy. I wasn't even expecting that. I was just listening to what you're saying. I look back and all of a sudden the double kill happens. Teddy out of basically nowhere, able to just kill them all.
I mean, we're really this is definitely an interesting day. This is absolutely an interesting day. SANDBOX, they win the team fight, and then they push for a tier 1 plateless top turret, and then give over all of those kills to Teddy, and now we're right back at square one, where we just were. Now, if SANDBOX get this Mountain Dragon, things are going to be fine. If T1 gets it and threatens Soul to be the next dragon, that's when things can get a little bit scary, even though SANDBOX does still have ways to resist against it. Here we go.
All right, Cuz, let's see it. Okay, Faker, he's really just bullying Gorilla right now, getting into the back. Where's the smite? It goes to T1 as Gorilla is finally going to go down, but that bullet time is massive from the side of Root. But still, a big pull onto 3, and now Cuz is going to get the follow-up knock-up. T1 get a couple more kills, and all of a sudden, this game is turned on its head. T1 are pushing through the mid lane.
And I'm pretty sure that at this point, they're going to bust this all wide open. They're going to get all of the jungle away from SANDBOX. They're going to raise the mid-tier 1 and tier 2 turret, and be able to take away the red side jungle. I mean, the game just completely flipped on its head in 4 minutes.
This.
You look at this replay, and you wonder why they're doing this under the tier 1 turret for, what, 500 gold? Valdez. 500 gold is what they were looking to achieve right there.
You don't have to engage either. Just take the turret if you really want to.
Teddy was like Winnie the Pooh right there.
No need to dive it, you know?
He saw the honeypot, and he went in. He got all of the kills, and then Cuz getting the Mountain Dragon. Now they're threatening Soul. Even though SANDBOX, if SANDBOX can stall
already
for 15 minutes or something, they can still win. But it's gonna be really rough. They start off this team fight by getting right into the base of it, and then watch Summit. He dies midair, trying to get the third Aatrox Q off onto Teddy, who gets out of the fight. He recognizes, I can't add any more value to this. Let me push immediately. And now SANDBOX, what was looking like it was going to be a really free win after the Herald team fight, threw everything away in 3 minutes.
Well, we've said throw a lot. This is kind of a day of throws and a game of throws. A lot of throws back and forth. SANDBOX, questionable decisions in the top lane, and now that scaling dream we were talking about, it kind of does feel like T1 have closed, or rather opened the gap, you could say, as they are the ones that wanted to blow this game wide open and try to get as much gold early on as possible. And now they're really pushing the envelope with the lead that they do have. I mean, their Xayah is just god tier right now. Not quite legendary. 5-0-3. Only picked up assists in that last dragon fight. Good smite by Cuz as well. You know, this could be a different game if the Mountain Drake went the way of SANDBOX and they denied, you know, Dragon Soul point essentially on the next dragon. And they got like a little bit of extra resistances and stuff. Maybe they could hold on for like a 35, 40-minute game. But even the smite is big when it does come to these, these new dragons and Dragon Souls in the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 2 minutes until we get to that soul. And I mentioned earlier that obviously SANDBOX, they have ways that they can whittle away at it, but getting it this early on is definitely going to be a massive power boost. And, I mean, Baron's going to be up as well, so being able to capture both and then just try to run through SANDBOX is obviously going to be the best course of action. They're up 7,000 gold at 20 minutes. This is right around the spot where you can comfortably say, yeah, they have a lead. SANDBOX, they're not out of it. If they can manage to get the next dragon and then buy more time, they can definitely resist one Baron push. A 23, 24-minute Baron is not by any means lights out, especially not with the wave clear that SANDBOX has available to them with that Azir and the Misfortune. So we'll have to see how this game plays out. If SANDBOX can hold on, similar to how T1 did in the previous game, they're going to have a lot more punch behind them if they manage that.
It's definitely a question of if they have the tenacity to stick in this one. And I don't know if they win another team fight around the dragon, though, because we just saw what happens when they get a really nice engage with the triple knock-up from the Azir into bullet time. And an Aatrox relatively in the back line, he just got melted because already Teddy had 2.5 items. Now he's got 3. I don't know that this Aatrox can stay alive for long enough to really do any kind of efficient and effective flanking. And even with the perfect engage, you know, how are you really going to do it? We saw the bullet time come in and Teddy just lifts off and hops away, does the damage to the Aatrox. Same can happen if the... It's got to be like you force the feathers to come out and then you engage onto Xayah. I think that might be the only way they win a fight. And that's, again, saying a lot as Summit.
The thing about this one is that on Fleet, Faker has one job. Okay, this is actually game 1 mirrored again. Okay. This is game 1 mirrored. If Faker can find the Death Realm onto the very large boar.
Wait, where is she? I can't see her. Where's the boar?
Then the boar cannot get the dragon.
So Faker clicks on other large things, but it's not going to be the Aatrox, actually. Aatrox gets extremely low. Wait, Summit already out of the fight. He's going to have to TP back into this one. And okay, we're going for Root. He's found the 80 carry, but good dodge so far on the slam down. And he's going to flash another one, but he is out of the fight. And Xayah is the one doing all the damage in this one. T1 might just be too far ahead. flashing forward is Teddy. Not quite able to pick up that last kill, but you remove Root and you remove that ability to team fight, and Teddy will do the rest of the cleanup work. They get the Mountain Soul, and T1 are running away with this game.
The Mountain Soul is just so big. Look at all of that added HP, and having it this early on into the game is definitely abnormal. Root gets a little bit too close to the Mordekaiser and then tries to stay alive, which was honestly a pretty interesting decision because I don't know what he thinks was going on, and even if he thinks that his teammates were winning the fight, he could just look at his teammates' monitors really quick, and he could tell what was going on outside the Death Realm. But now with the Mountain Soul, they should be able to comfortably pick up the Baron and push for a Game 4 relatively easily.
Looks like that's the direction we are heading on, as it's going to take a lot of minutes, essentially, to find SANDBOX an opportunity to come back in this one. But even then, you know, after the Dragon Soul comes in, some of these new options that Riot has put into the preseason, such as, you know, if you get these 4 dragons really quickly, then we're going to have a 29-minute Elder Drake spawn. And that's extremely early compared to what we've seen in the past. Plus, Elder is seemingly just Exodia, where it just owns games and ends them immediately. Not to mention Baron and Elder, potentially, that could come in later.
Elder, now, even though it is a 1 dragon, or I mean it's a 0 dragon, Elder is still a window for SANDBOX if they can somehow smite steal it or win a miracle fight and then get it. But this is a really, really scary situation right now. Gorilla's dead.
Ooh, yeah.
All right.
And Root might just be 2. There's too much damage here on the Xayah. A couple people going to get just caught wandering in the mid lane. Not sure why they're trying to face check into the enemy jungle where they do not have any vision. But OnFleek decided he would do the same. 3v5, and now they're getting dove. Summit is way out of here. Faker going to force OnFleek to fight him, as down will go the Azir, and down will go the Boar. Summit the only one to stay alive, wondering why this game is still going on. And it might just end really quickly here. We might not even see the Baron or the Elder because T1 are just pushing down the mid lane.
And what's going on here is they're going to get the mid inhibitor. They're also going to get the top inhibitor. MF does have bullet time, so... Oh!
Look at them try to kill Teddy. It's just hilarious. He saves his ultimate, the Feather Storm, for the perfect time. Knew he could wait until after the Nautilus ultimate. He's like, yep, no big deal. See you later. And,
okay.
Yeah,
we're back.
Right. Yeah.
Escape.
Not going to be the end of the game. Just the 2 inhibitors that do come down here. But still, multiple objectives await T1 and their massive lead that they have in this game. 10-0 and 3 right now for Teddy.
Yeah, and I mean, this game is really over. As we see right here, F's in the chat for Harambe. As then they make their way over to Root. They just get a pick off onto him. There's no reason for them to ever be leaving their base at that point in time. Swap to Quadra Blue Trinket, or even 5 at this point, to try to keep tabs on the Baron. But now everything is... It's not going so well, Valdez.
Yeah, I mean, even if they get in there and they smite steal the Baron, is that enough to hold off the onslaught of T1? Questions that I'm sure SANDBOX does not want to face right now in this game, but they will be forced to. Look at the giant shields we have on those 2 players. They've got other stuff, you know, Guardian. They have Overheal, all these fun things, plus the Mountain Soul. So just going to add just insult to injury. All of these souls can be good when you're really this far ahead. T1 are making that apparent. OnFleek has been spotted, seemingly, or at least his ward has. As now they're going to just start up the Baron. We'll see if OnFleek can pull off the miracle play, as there is so much vision in the enemy jungle.
Well, he's down 3 levels, so I don't think this is going to happen. Faker looking for him. All he has to do is land the R key on him, and he's truly the gatekeeper here.
Yeah, okay, is he going to flash? No, he doesn't even have the time to, as he's put in the dumpster there in that ultimate. And down will go Summit 2. Going to be charmed up here. This game is as good as over, as Dove is, for some reason, in the bottom side. He's going to get stunned up and just delayed. As pushing down the mid lane here is T1 looking for their first win in the series. Faker is looking for a kill. He's looking for revenge, perhaps, as Teddy is going to pick up 11. How about 12? No, because it's going to deny that one. As he's really angry about the way the series has gone. It'd just be better if he could hit some abilities, as there he will go. And down will go the Nexus. T1 going to win this one 21-4 in kills. An absolute disaster after SANDBOX try to dive tier 1 in the top side, and Teddy just put them all in the grave.